You might find this strange or conspiratorial, but the system actually needs you depressed, in a systematic and deliberate manner. Not broken exactly, not hopeless, but this quiet, humming undercurrent of sadness that so many of us carry around like a shadow. It sounds harsh, I know, because we're told depression is a problem to fix, an illness to treat, a personal failing to overcome. But believe me, instead, it's also part of the system's design. The thing that keeps us moving, scrolling, buying, consuming, and just barely hanging on enough to stay in the game. I'm not saying this to blame you. Honestly, I'm with you here. I've felt it too. The exhaustion, the ache, that restless swirl of thoughts at 3 a.m., wondering if all this effort actually means anything. It's lonely, but maybe it's more universal than we want to admit. We're caught in a loop fueled by dopamine hits from notifications, likes, and endless scrolling. And somewhere in that loop, the system, the economic, digital, social structures we navigate every day relies on this tension, this tiredness, not to crush us, but to keep us manageable. Because here's what depression does that nobody really talks about. It makes us incredibly predictable. When you're depressed, you don't take risks. You don't start that business, quit that soul-crushing job, or move to the city you've been dreaming about. You don't have those difficult conversations that might change everything. You just consume. You scroll. You buy things that promise to make you feel better. You stay exactly where you are. And our emotional exhaustion might just be the most profitable resource on the planet right now. Think about it. When we're perfectly happy and fulfilled, what motivates us to consume more? To chase the next big thing? To keep working jobs we don't love or staying up late on apps designed to make us stay? Happiness doesn't necessarily drive the economy, but a low hum of dissatisfaction, an emotional exhaustion that's just enough to push us forward without breaking us? Maybe that's the sweet spot. When you're feeling genuinely good about yourself, what do? You go outside, you call friends, you create things, you engage with the world in ways that don't require spending money or clicking ads or staying glued to a screen for hours. But when you're depressed, when you're anxious, when you feel inadequate, that's when you become the perfect consumer. That's when you're most likely to buy the thing, download the app, binge the series, scroll until 3 a.m., hoping maybe the next post will fill that emptiness. I wonder if that's why depression, in its many forms and faces, feels like more than just a personal struggle. It's almost systemic. A side effect of a culture designed for productivity, distraction, and consumption. One that rewards being busy, connected, but not necessarily present or whole. It thrives on our fragmented attention, on our restless mind cycles, and in that, it quietly depends on us feeling somewhat off balance, even disconnected from ourselves and others. We're surrounded by systems that need us to be dissatisfied, restless, always wanting more, because satisfied people don't make good customers. Happy people don't doom scroll. Content people don't impulse buy at 2 a.m. Every algorithm is designed to keep you scrolling, not to help you feel fulfilled. Every advertisement is crafted to make you feel like you're missing something. Every social media platform makes money by capturing and selling your attention, and nothing captures attention quite like anxiety, envy, and that nagging sense that everyone else has figured out something you haven't. And so we wake up, check our phones, get a hit of that algorithmic dopamine, and feels good, until it doesn't. And then we scroll more, searching for something real, something that makes that emptiness shrink, even if just a little. But the system's algorithms aren't really interested in peace or resolution. They thrive on emotional fluctuation, on that nuanced space between hope and despair. Look at what we're expected to handle on any given day. We wake up to notifications designed to trigger us. We check the news and see nothing but crisis and conflict. We go to jobs that often feel meaningless, working for companies that would replace us in a heartbeat. We're told to hustle harder while rent prices skyrocket and wages stagnate. We're expected to maintain perfect mental health while scrolling through feeds that are literally engineered to make us feel inadequate. It's exhausting, isn't it? This constant push-pull of feeling connected but isolated, hopeful but disappointed. I see it around me all the time. Friends cancel plans because just getting out of bed feels like a marathon. Or we laugh at memes that so accurately capture our pain, it almost hurts. This isn't just sadness. It's a mood infiltrated by late capitalism, where our deepest feelings get tangled with the commerce of attention. And the really insidious part? We've internalized this. We blame ourselves for feeling this way. We think we're broken. We think we need to fix ourselves so we can better participate in the very systems that are making us sick. The system doesn't need you happy. It needs you hungry, desperate, willing to work jobs you hate to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. It needs you insecure enough to keep consuming but functional enough to keep producing. So how do we make sense of this? How do we untangle ourselves? Here's the turning point I want to share, because it's not all doom and gloom. What if depression, in some ways, is also a signal? Not just a problem, but a form of resistance or awareness, a kind of internal alarm going off, telling us something's out of sync. Maybe it's our mind's way of nudging us to slow down, to question what keeps us going, to rethink the endless chasing of fleeting validation and external approval. Depression, in this context, isn't a malfunction. It's the canary in the coal mine. It's your psyche saying, something is very wrong here. Maybe the problem isn't that you can't handle modern life. Maybe modern life isn't designed to be handled. When you realize that your depression isn't some inherent flaw, but a response to systems that profit from your misery, everything changes. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what's wrong with this? There's a strange kind of clarity that can come from that low place. A grounding. When the noise quiets a bit, we might start to see ourselves outside the system's usual demands, to notice where the cycle repeats, to realize that our worth isn't tied to productivity or likes, that our emotions, even the tough ones, are part of a human experience that no algorithm fully understands or owns. That means depression could become a kind of invitation to connect more deeply with ourselves, with others, to reclaim our time and attention. Not because the system needs us less, but because we need to need ourselves more. To find pockets of freedom within the structure. Small acts of self-kindness, moments unplugged from the screen, conversations that go beyond surface level. Once you see this pattern, something interesting happens. You can't unsee it. And that awareness? That's actually the beginning of freedom. You don't have to opt out completely. You don't have to move to a cabin in the woods or throw your phone in a river. You just have to become conscious of the game being played and decide whether you want to keep playing by someone else's rules. And here's where we land. Recognizing that while the system might feed on our emotional struggle, it doesn't have the final say. Our awareness is a form of power. It reminds us that we are not just cogs in a machine, or just data to be optimized. We are complex, messy, feeling beings searching for meaning in a world that often feels like noise. So where do we go from here? Maybe the cultural shift we need isn't about erasing depression or forcing happiness. Maybe it's about embracing our full emotional range as valid, as signals rather than failures. Seeing ourselves not as broken systems to be fixed, but as human beings whose restlessness calls for transformation, of not just the individual, but the world we inhabit. In the end, the question isn't why we feel this way. It's what we do with that feeling, how we respond when the system leans on our exhaustion and sadness. Can we find ways to pause, breathe, and reclaim our own rhythms? To build spaces where vulnerability isn't a liability, but a strength? To imagine a future where our emotional lives aren't tied to endless consumption, but to genuine connection and care? I don't have all the answers, and maybe that's the point. The invitation is to lean into the questions, together. To be curious about our feelings and experiences without shame or blame. To recognize the system's grip, but not be defined by it. Because depression, while it may be a part of the system's fabric, doesn't have to be the fabric of our lives. The system needs you depressed. But you don't need the system. At least, not the version of it that's currently running the show. Thanks for watching.